Welcome to B2B Bites, the big commerce B2B podcast where we deep dive into the world of manufacturing, distribution, and wholesale. Each episode, we bring you conversations with industry leaders and pioneers who are shaping the future of B2B e-commerce. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Corey Wilhelm, Global Vice President of Marcom at Movora, covering e-commerce, marketing and communications, and brand strategy. Movora are a leading global veterinary MedTech company. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. Maybe just to tee us off here, Corey, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your career, and how you ended up in the world of B2B?
Yes, I'm what I call a marketing mutt. So my career has spanned many different industries and both B2B and B2C. I spent the bulk of my career in gift, fashion, and handbags, where I was dealing with wholesalers, so on the B2B side, but also B2C. So really over marketing and creative, and e-commerce always fell under my wing. So that's kind of how I got my start, and just really asking a lot of questions, meeting really interesting people, and having great partners, kept my curiosity piqued. I know that e-commerce is the future of shopping, et cetera, and, just stayed really close to it. So, like I said, I've spanned many different industries, and e-commerce has always been a part of that. And now we're finding that it's such an important channel for growing and developing our business, but also really providing services to our customers.
I love that, and I think we'll deep dive into some of those points a little bit later. But for those who kind of aren't familiar with Movora, maybe tee us off by telling us a little bit about who Movora are. What do you sell? Who do you sell to? What does the Movora business look like?
So Movora is, like you mentioned, a global leader. We were rooted in orthopedics. So we came together about 4 years ago through private equity, 3 competing orthopedic brands, which is a success story all in itself. We came together, found a lot of synergies, and decided to kind of bring ourselves together even further under the name Movora. Movora, the name itself, actually stands for a combination of the words movement and collaboration. We position ourselves, we're 100% veterinary focused. So we do things like fracture and trauma implants, prosthetic joints, and solutions for the operating room. So imaging, surgical instrumentation, suture, et cetera. And I think we've always positioned ourselves as just being a close partner to our customers. We localize, which we'll get into a little bit later, which is, how we make our global company accessible and approachable to every region that we operate in.
Global business, selling into different regions and kind of localizing that experience. I really want to double click into that partnership piece. Maybe just a follow up then, kind of who are your customers? They sound like they'd sort of be veterinary clinics, maybe hospitals. Is that kind of right? Those are the folks buying, or are there distributors in between there? How does it work?
No, we do not use distributors. We are direct to our veterinary customers, and it can span everyone from general practitioners to practice managers and their support staff, and then highly trained specialists like orthopedist specialists, et cetera. So those are our primary customers.
You mentioned sort of the customer first. You're trying to partner with, be a great partner to your end purchaser. What does that look like, and how do you embody that, and how do you think about that? And then maybe as a follow-up to that, how do you do that in a global space? You've got a really big business that is selling globally. How do you think about that?
So partnering is really making sure that we have a consultative approach to sales, and freeing up time for our sales team members to be in the field, answering questions, managing inventory, pairing a surgeon or a veterinary clinic with the right product mix. Those were things that were being taken up by, can you tell me, what my account balance is, or do I have a credit, or can you help me with this return? Being a partner means bringing localized resources like local currency, language, et cetera. And one thing is we have our reps in the field with customers. And we looked at building this as a tool to assist them when they're in the field, not necessarily replace them, but also help them in the field and really solidify that close partnership. When you're not having a conversation with one of our reps, we have resources and a place for you to go online where you're going to get exactly what you need.
Yeah, that's a story we hear obviously quite a lot. You see that in, with lots of our kind of customers. It's how do we ensure that our sales team are really maximizing their time out in the field and not dealing with kind of manual data entry, whether that's checking a credit balance or an order status or whatever that might be. And I think that's a really nice transition. You've just taken Movora through a huge e-commerce kind of digital transformation. What kind of, obviously we got one piece there, which is the sales team piece, and we'll probably double click into that. But what really drove that transition for you? How did you approach it? What were you trying to achieve as you looked at kind of moving the business into a kind of, if I can say it, kind of more digital first kind of experience?
Well, bringing three legacy brands together at first and then acquiring many more after that, we all came with different maturity levels in digital. We all came with different platforms and different solutions to how we did business. And part of the noise in growing our business is trying to standardize all of that and make sense of it all and bring it all together. We had different systems managing product. We had product all over spreadsheets. And these aren't unusual things in companies who do similar things, right? This isn't unusual. But it was also a little manic. And trying to grow our business when we didn't have any sort of standardization or central entry point to even learn more about our company, internal processes, et cetera. So, part of what we were looking to solve was, consistent product information across the board, the ability to localize the experience, to buy in your language, to buy in your currency, to be fulfilled by the nearest fulfillment center, facilitate a better in-store search experience, whether you're looking by brand, by product code, or by keyword, to be able to get the results that you want. And then the customers were telling us, we did a survey and they were telling us, hey, we want some transparency into the back end. We want to know how we can manage our own accounts. So those were the things that we had in mind when we were moving forward. And we collect NPS, and the customers that really tolerated where we were at, we still had a great NPS because we have an amazing customer service team and service team and sales team. But still, we had a lot of friction when it came to completing the sales process. And a lot of it was being done manually just because we didn't have any sort of standardization out there.
We hear a lot. There's a lot of consolidation going on in the space, whether that's private equity backed or bootstrapped companies coming together and as an acquisition. I'm curious, kind of as you went into this, you had a multitude of brands, 4 brands coming together. How do you manage that? How did you approach that? What did the experience kind of look like before you started this digital transformation?
It was a lot of meetings to talk about the different systems that we had to manage. My e-commerce team had to learn so many different platforms, so many different ways of doing business. There were bespoke models, that were customized to the hilt, like some that were just open source or easy to manage CMS. I mean, it was all over the place. So how did we manage it? Hope, prayer, patience, and a willingness to make it better. I guess was how we managed it. It was nuts. We have a lot of management tools here that we can use, like for project management, but even that was starting to get a little convoluted given the number of different websites and e-commerce sites that we had as a result of so much M&A.
Gotcha. And so do you now think of kind of your team as like a center of kind of excellence that is building this out for all of the brands and any future brands that come in? Was that also a challenge? Like thinking about, if we keep acquiring, how on earth are we going to bring them in and manage them and have a consistent experience? And maybe also, is there like a cross-sell, upsell piece here across each of these brands that come in? You want to be sharing customer data and able to kind of grow revenue that way. Was that part of it too?
Well, yeah, I guess part of the approach would be we spent a lot of time band-aiding everything. And what a goal was to know what great looks like. to go through these exercises so that my team had been through it and understands what great looks like, so that everything that we do from here on out will be built on best practices and knowing what great really does look like.
Yeah, and then being able to take that across brands, that makes a lot of sense. So maybe actually getting a little into the project itself, what did that kind of process look like? How did you kind of choose a platform? What did you ultimately go with, and what did that process look like?
So, one of our brands in several locations was on a BigCommerce solution already, and we were on, I guess you would call it B2C, or what BigCommerce was traditional. And my goal there was, and I was the one that implemented those. And the goal was to bring our customers more of a familiar shopping experience, and that worked for a little bit until there's a lot of consolidation within the veterinary space too, and account management became a priority. So we chose BigCommerce because BigCommerce didn't fail us at all when it came to growing our business when we were on the B2C side of things. We chose BigCommerce because of the CMS it's easy to understand. I came from a Magento background. That's a very difficult platform to navigate if you don't have a lot of experience with it. And I needed my team to be nimble. So that's why we selected BigCommerce. We were on a bunch of other solutions, Shopify, Cloudify, WordPress, and those are great systems, but I needed to make a choice, and I needed to bring everything together. And it was really diving in and seeing that 30% of our business was dependent on an e-commerce channel. They needed to be able to do their business on the fly when they're out, when they have time, and when they're on their phones. And we couldn't deliver that solution to them. So BigCommerce had a solution that we could use, and our partner agency that we ended up selecting introduced us to BigCommerce B2B, and it answered every single question that we had, and delivered a solution that we knew our customers would need and want.
That's really great. That consolidation, we hear this a lot as well. You've grown acquisitively. You've got lots of different technologies in the pool. You've got to try and pick best of breed and meet both a B2B need and a B2C need. That's not easy. They're different buyers with different requirements. Bringing that together can be tricky. Since you've gone live, what does that? How did you measure success? How do you think about success? I'm kind of curious to that, and how has that gone? Have you seen success in taking those kind of B2B stores live?
Well, I think I'm going to reference one of your B2B bites that you had before with Jason Greenwood, and he was talking about de-risking your re-platform. And one of the things he talked about was having an internal and external plan for adoption. And I think that was a big thing for us, is to make sure that our staff was very well trained so that they could help onboard those customers, reignite maybe some dormant accounts, et cetera. And we trained our sales team to use that as a development tool in the field, to say, hey, we have this new platform and look what you can do with it now. So I think that, it was really important there. And then our partner helped us with some of the external adoption initiatives. So since we've gone live with EMEA being the first out of the gate, because they had the most unstable solution in place at first, and it gave us an opportunity to put together an MVP and deliver on that before we started to roll it out to our much larger markets. And since we've done that, the very 1st of January, we're up 30% month over month, which is amazing. We've seen double-digit growth quarter over quarter. We've had our highest recorded sales via e-commerce in March of this year that we've ever recorded in a 12-month look back. So I would say going pretty well. Customers are liking it.
Thumbs up.
And yeah, feeling really good about that. Canada's really been 2 weeks out of the gate. But when we compare, March activity to where we're at in April right now, we're up 29%. So I would say we're doing pretty good.
You're feeling pretty good about the launch so far. You mentioned something, we sort of glossed over it, but I'd love to double click into, because it's so important, which is bringing sales folks and internal teams along for the ride and along for the journey, right? They have to be champions of this. They have to understand the benefits. So I'm curious to share maybe some of your insights as to how you approach that. Did anything go wrong there? I hear so many stories of sales teams that just push back and fight against e-commerce. And I know that will resonate with many of the listeners here. How did you approach that piece in particular, kind of the sales and internal training of folks on the e-commerce and getting them to be kind of the evangelists and helping to push that out to get the external adoption that you obviously want?
Well, since they are so front and center with our customers, they were actually the ones that brought us a lot of the pain points. So we've done surveys, and that was what really kicked off this initiative. But they also they field the complaints right there in front of them. They saw it firsthand. So really, knowing that we were addressing the pain points that they were facing in the field was that sense of relief that they needed, and to be able to say, this is coming, we've listened to you, and now to be able to demonstrate that we listened to you, and we're giving you exactly what you asked for. It's that, they can't wait to get in the field and talk about it. They can't wait to say, look, we did what you asked for, and I can't wait for you to start using this solution. So in my mind, I think it was just letting them know that we listened to the customers' pain points and their own pain points, and we didn't really have a lot of resistance.
It becomes a selling point for the sales team, and that's really nice. I love that when your sales team can go out in the field and say, "Look, you've been complaining about this. We listened." And actually, that's a pat on the back for the salesperson. That's amazing. How do you keep that relationship going? How do you keep the information coming in, the feedback from I guess the sales team in the field, but also from the customers? Is that continued surveys? How do you keep that relationship?
We collect NPS at the close of each transaction. We
Wow.
allow feedback there. We do actually get feedback, which is great. We're a low volume site, but a high dollar site, given the nature of the products that we sell. And that NPS feedback is so nice to see. And we are seeing that NPS score trend up even more. Even though we were sitting in a world-class position still, I can't wait for it to just be 100 all the time. That will be amazing. But that is how we're measuring that today. We have some other tools that we can listen to customers' experiences online, just more from a troubleshooting perspective if we're having a speed issue or we're trying to replicate an issue. But those have been quite minimal right now. So it's really just NPS and then our sales team feedback. Seeing the delight in the sales team's eyes when they have a customer who understands that we met their needs, that's a win right there.
How did you approach the training piece? Was it group trainings? You got everyone together, or individual kind of modules that you
It
built?
was
How
a
did you think
mixture.
about? Okay, like a
Yeah,
mixture of everything.
we did a mixture of group things where we actually walked through testing together all in a room, and had open dialogue. And do we need to, is this a fix now? Is this, something this we can do later? And we reprioritized as we were testing. So I think, training and testing kind of went hand in hand. They got to see the capabilities through the testing, and then training really on, pushing the system to its limits, trying to break things along the way. But I think knowing that there were certain aspects that the customers could do for themselves and self-serve, um, you know, got the team excited about how can I really set them up for success? How can I really onboard them right now so that they can do this? And now my time will be freed in helping our customers more.
Yeah. That's so great. There's so many fantastic nuggets in there. I think for folks to learn from, and you've clearly done that with the right approach, continuing to collect that NPS after every transaction. That's such a great idea. Not every customer is going to fill it in, but those that do, if they had a problem, they'll fill it in. It's right there, right as you complete the transaction. I love that. Often, sort of a dirty secret for B2B e-commerce is that the front end is the great fancy bit and then snazzy bit that everyone talks about, but all the hard work is sort of behind the scenes in connecting these systems, especially when you've got acquisition and lots of different systems most likely behind the scenes. So maybe kind of talking about that with people about outside of B2B commerce saying, oh, this is boring. But for those who are in it, this is where the magic really happens. Like in the ERP, in the PIM, the source of truth.
Ugh.
What did that look like for Movora. What did it look like? What does it look like now? Is it where you want it to be? What were the pains of the back end pieces?
I feel like the back end looked like a plate of spaghetti. To start off, it was every bit the definition of chaos. So we had third party solutions. Like when I said we band-aided some things, there were band-aids on the back end, left and right. There was the duct tape around the leaky pipe, etc. That's the best way I can to describe it. Finding a really solid, good partner who really just wanted to hear what are our pain points, what are our customer pain points. Internally, that was exactly it. We were managing product off of a spreadsheet, and like I said, that's not unusual, but was definitely risky. We were doing a lot of things manually, so some things would come in, not everything wrote down to the ERP, and we also had different ERPs in every region. So part of this, right in the middle of our massive e-commerce replatform and reimagination, the company as a whole decided to upgrade the ERP. And I wasn't against it because I knew that it was going to make the whole e-commerce project that much more successful, because we could automate so much more. In hindsight, probably would have done that prior to the project, but we have a very strong, resilient team, and we made it through. And now we're enjoying the benefits of that, and kind of just in continuous improvement mode now.
There are lots to double click into there. Just one, you kind of mentioned that you picked a partner to assist and help. I know that was 5874, one of the big commerce agencies out of EMEA, but also doing lots of work across the globe for our customers. How did you approach picking a partner? Because that's often a tricky decision. How do you find the right person who's going to help you along this what is a quite tricky and often fraught process of full, in this case, replatform, but also digitization of lots of different systems?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because, before we kicked all of this off, obviously there were company decisions being made regarding our digital integrity and our, digital structure. And the ERP was always a conversation in the background. And, while in hindsight, we wouldn't have done all of that together, we were talking to ERP implementers who were like, we can do your e-commerce too. And then we were talking to e-commerce people like, oh, well, have you thought of this ERP? And what I really wanted was a really solid e-commerce partner. So obviously, as I had done in the past with BigCommerce, looked at the partners that you worked with, and what they could deliver on. And I selected 3 different partners. I put an RFP together of what I was looking for, and submitted that. And 5874 was one that I had talked to. And they just really listened to us. And I think, Jason Greenwood also mentioned that as having a really great partner is integral to a successful program. Having selected 5874, it was, a match from the start. I felt like they really understood our needs. They knew what we were about ready to embark on. They helped us make sense of it all. They helped me justify the case to our board and to our management to make this. And no other company really did that for us. They just kind of gave me a number. Here you go. And, oh, here's what's included and what's not included. And what I liked about the approach with 5874 is that they took time to really understand our needs. They didn't just talk to me. They talked to my customer service team. They talked to my sales team, my operations team. They talked to my executive staff. And that's what you need when you're selecting a really great partner, is someone who understands all facets of your business. I can't say enough good things about them. This is my shameless plug for 58, but I can't say enough good things about them. It's been really good meeting them and having them on this journey with us.
But I think it's so important, if you're out there and you're looking at digital transformation, how to choose a partner, someone who listens to your problems, wants to understand them in depth, is so important. And maybe some lessons out there for partners who are listening, that's the great approach. And also helping to justify the spend, justify the project in the first place, that's often, tricky and difficult. How do we justify what is sometimes, sizable upfront spend in terms of implementation and helping to put together, someone who's done that a lot, who can really help to put together the business case and kind of talk you through it and then help you take that to the board. I think that's a really big bonus from a partner when they can deliver that
It really was.
well.
Yes, it really was.
In terms of kind of lessons learned going
Yeah.
through the journey, I'm sure there are lots, and you mentioned a couple, but are there any that things you wished you knew when you started, or lessons that were real key takeaways as you've gone through the process?
I'm a pretty optimistic and ambitious person, and I have a big vision, right? So I had this big vision, and I think in hindsight, being able to take that vision and divide it up a little bit more and bring it down to my team. Realistic timelines, et cetera. When you have a big project like an ERP replatform that really not anticipating how much of a drain on resources and a drain on budget that was going to be. You know, I would say, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done those projects overlapping each other. I would have done them in succession, and probably would have done ERP than e-commerce. But all that being said, we came through it, right? And we did it, and we made it happen. It was the right thing to do for our business, because we were so antiquated in our legacy companies that we brought together under the name Movora. So it was the right thing. It was a pain we signed up for. And we're stronger for it, I think, as a result. I would say the biggest thing would be to anyone considering doing this now is be realistic about your team's needs, be realistic about the time it's going to take, and give them the headspace they need to do this project. Um, you know, we made it work. I would have approached it differently a second time.
Yeah, there are always some learnings. A theme that I've sort of noticed through our conversation, and it's in the name, right? It's not just about selling a product from Movora. This is about educating the ecosystem and really providing being a really great partner to your customers. And I think that's really, really important today in B2B. Those that are just selling a product are doing themselves a disservice. And I know that's really core to everything about Movora. So I'd love to sort of get your views on how you bring that together online, how you're approaching that educational piece, because I think folks can really learn a lot from the approach that you've taken there. Because it's, as I say, like, if you want loyal customers today, educate them. That's how you're going to keep buyers,
Absolutely.
loyal.
I mean, part of what Movora does with our product line is, we're working already with highly skilled individuals who have no time, right? Because they're busy doing surgeries. So having a platform that gives them everything they need right there on one page. If they're looking at one particular solution, they have all of their resources available to them right there. They have any education opportunities, whether it's online or in person, served on the website. So they're not having to go to this website just to do this, or that website to do that, or this learning platform to do that. Everything's connected through our website. And again, that was one of those pain points that we were solving. So education, educating them first on what we have available online at their disposal, but then also there's, education is a pillar and a platform for Movora. That's how we, get our products adopted and create solutions that are serving animals and advancing animal health.
Yeah, I love it. You approach it from, if we educate our very busy buyers, they're doing very important things, which are, saving animal lives. They don't have much time, but if you can be that partner that they lean on to educate them on the latest best practice with your particular, obviously, products in there, that builds that loyalty. So
And give
that's
them one
obviously,
place to find it. You can buy your products, you can learn about what education opportunities are out there. Every resource attached to a product is available, right there on the product detail pages. That's the important part of having your PIM and having, a really great service like SearchSpring to have good in-store search so that they can, when they get their search results, they're seeing those education opportunities, those resources, or print manuals, et cetera, that are attached to that particular product. So it's just a better experience overall for our customers, especially when they don't have time.
Built into the PDP, built into the search, that's really core to the entire experience, and built into the overall e-commerce experience is that education piece. That's great. And I haven't seen many companies that have been that successful at doing it. And you guys, I think, really, really, really have, and kind of setting the standard on what's possible. When I look at your website, it's a really fantastic experience. We're sort of coming up towards the end of this, what I think has been a truly fantastic episode. Thank you, Corey, so much for joining us. As we look into kind of the future for Movora, what's coming next? What's exciting you about what's next on the kind of roadmap for Movora?
Well, because we are a global organization, so rolling out multi-language across all sites, that's going to be really exciting. That's coming up, so that will help us deliver on those better localized experiences. The ability for us to integrate now into e-procurement systems, that's a huge part of our business, working with corporate hospitals, et cetera. And then building loyalty programs and subscription services. These were capabilities that we just didn't have before. And in all this, technology replatforming and, digital reimagination is allowing us to do that. And we'll be able to scale well into the future.
I love it. There's so much coming. There's so much more to deliver. It feels like you're kind of in phase one and a half of the program, and so much.
So
more
I said,
to deliver.
it's continuous improvement. That's kind of our mentality around here. We can always make tomorrow better than what today was. And I think if you have that, you get excited about the change and not taxed by the change. And we're excited about the changes.
Corey, thank you so much for joining us on this B2B Bites episode. There were so many amazing nuggets in there. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.